The scent of fresh strawberries filled the air as I pushed Ruby's stroller through the farmer's market. Wesley's hand rested on my lower back, a comforting presence amid the bustling crowd. It was a perfect Saturday morning until I heard that voice, the one that still haunted my nightmares. "Quinn, is that really you? And with a baby at your age?" I froze, my fingers tightening on the stroller handle. Slowly, I turned to face Ian, my ex-husband, his familiar smirk sending chills down my spine. "Ian, leave us alone. This is none of your business," I managed to say, my voice steadier than I felt. Wesley stepped closer, his body a shield between Ian and our family. "I think it's time for you to move along," he said, his tone calm but firm. Ian's eyes narrowed, flicking from Wesley to Ruby. My, quite the little family you've got here. Tell me, Quinn, does she know about all the babies you couldn't keep?" The words hit me like a physical blow. I felt the color drain from my face as memories of loss and pain flooded back. "That's enough," Wesley growled, taking a step forward. Ian held up his hands in mock surrender, but his eyes never left mine. "You'll never be rid of me, Quinn. You know that." With a final smirk, he melted into the crowd, leaving me shaken. "Are you okay?" Wesley asked, his hand gently squeezing my shoulder. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Ruby gurgled in her stroller, oblivious to the tension around her. I reached down to stroke her cheek, drawing strength from her innocence. As we made our way home, Ian's words echoed in my mind. He was right about one thing. I'd never truly be free of him until I faced my past head-on. It was time to take control, to protect my family from the poison of my previous life. Looking at Wesley and Ruby, I made a silent vow. Ian would never hurt us again. I'd make sure of it, no matter what it took. That night, sleep eluded me. I tossed and turned, replaying Ian's words in my head. Wesley's steady breathing beside me was a stark contrast to the chaos in my mind. As the first light of dawn crept through our curtains, I slipped out of bed and padded to Ruby's room. Watching her sleep, so peaceful and innocent, I felt a surge of protectiveness. I wouldn't let Ian's toxicity touch her life. Later that morning, as I nursed a cup of coffee, Wesley joined me in the kitchen. "You okay, honey? You were restless all night." I sighed, setting down my mug. "I can't stop thinking about yesterday. About Ian." Wesley's jaw tightened. "We should file a restraining order." "It's not that simple," I said, shaking my head. "There's so much you don't know about our past." "Then tell me," he urged, taking my hand. "I'm here for you, Quinn. Always." Taking a deep breath, I began to unravel the tangled web of my history with Ian. I told Wesley about the years of emotional manipulation, the cruel jabs at my self-esteem, and the desperation I felt trying to conceive. "We went through 3 rounds of IVF," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Each failure crushed me a little more. And Ian, he just grew colder." Wesley squeezed my hand, his eyes full of empathy. "I had no idea it was that bad. The last miscarriage was the final straw," I continued. "Ian told me I was broken, that I'd never be a real woman. That's when I finally left." As I finished speaking, I felt a weight lift from my chest. Wesley pulled me into a tight embrace, and I melted into his warmth. "You're the strongest person I know," he murmured into my hair. "We'll face this together." Just then my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Hope you enjoyed your little family outing yesterday. It won't last." My blood ran cold. I showed Wesley the message, watching his face darken with anger. "That's it," he said, his voice steely. "We're not letting him get away with this. It's time to fight back." In that moment, I knew Wesley was right. Ian had controlled my life for too long. It was time to reclaim my power, to protect my family, and to ensure Ian could never hurt us again. "Okay," I nodded, a newfound determination rising within me. "Where do we start?" The doorbell rang just as I finished feeding Ruby her breakfast. I opened the door to find my mother, Marlene, standing there with a worried expression. "Mom, what are you doing here?" She pulled me into a tight hug. "Wesley called. He told me what happened at the farmer's market. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. As we settled in the living room, Ruby happily playing with her toys nearby, I filled Mom in on the latest developments, including Ian's threatening text. That man, she muttered, shaking her head. I should have seen through him from the start. It's not your fault, Mom, I assured her. Ian fooled a lot of people. She reached out and squeezed my hand. You know, this reminds me of the trouble I had with your father's family. They never thought I was good enough for him. I leaned in, intrigued. Mom rarely spoke about her early marriage days. What happened? They tried to drive a wedge between us, constantly criticizing me, making snide remarks about my background. Her eyes grew distant with the memory. But your father stood by me. We faced them together, and eventually they came around. Just then Wesley's phone rang. He answered, his brow furrowing as he listened. Thanks, Dad. We'll be right over. Turning to us, he explained, that was my father. He wants us to come to his office right away. He says it's important. An hour later, we were seated in Charles's imposing office. His usual jovial demeanor was replaced by a grim determination. I've been doing some digging, he began, sliding a folder across his desk. Ian's been up to some shady business dealings. Nothing concrete yet, but there's enough here to start building a case against him. I flipped through the pages, my heart racing. This could be the leverage we needed. There's more, Charles continued. I've arranged for extra security at your house and Ruby's daycare. Ian won't be able to get near any of you without us knowing. Tears pricked my eyes. Thank you, Charles. I don't know what to say. He waved off my gratitude. Your family, Quinn. And nobody messes with my family. As we left Charles's office, I felt a mix of hope and trepidation. We had allies, we had a plan, but Ian was unpredictable. What would he do when he felt cornered? My phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number. I see you've been busy. Two can play at that game, Quinn. Watch your back. I showed Wesley the message, my hands shaking slightly. His jaw clenched. That's it. We're going to the police. This ends now. As we drove to the police station, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a long and difficult battle. But looking at Wesley's determined face and thinking of Ruby, I knew it was a fight worth having. No matter what Ian threw at us, we would face it together. The next morning, I woke with a renewed sense of purpose. While Wesley took Ruby to daycare, I dove into my old files, searching for anything that could expose Ian's true nature. Hours passed as I sifted through painful memories. Each document, each email, each photo was a stark reminder of the hell I'd endured. But among the hurt, I found gold. Evidence of Ian's infidelities, financial manipulations, and emotional abuse. My phone buzzed. It was Ava. Quinn, turn on the news. Now. Heart racing, I flipped on the TV. There was Ian, standing outside his office building, looking polished and composed. The headline made my blood run cold. Local architect announces candidacy for city council. And I promised to bring integrity and family values back to our great city, Ian was saying, his practiced smile never wavering. I felt sick. This was Ian's latest move, reinventing himself as a pillar of the community. If he succeeded, he'd have even more power to make our lives miserable. Just then, Wesley burst through the door, his face grim. I've been trying to call you. Did you see? I nodded, still in shock. We can't let him do this, Wesley. We can't let him fool everyone again. Wesley pulled me close. We won't. But we need to be smart about this. If we move too fast, he'll paint us as bitter exes trying to ruin him. My phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. Quite the speech, wasn't it? Better watch your step, Quinn. You wouldn't want anything to happen to that precious little family of yours. Rage boiled inside me. That's it, I said, showing Wesley the message. I'm done being afraid of him. I grabbed my laptop and started typing furiously. Wesley peered over my shoulder. What are you doing? Writing an email to every news outlet in the city, I said, my fingers flying across the keyboard. It's time they knew who Ian really is. Wesley touched my arm gently. Are you sure about this? Once we do this, there's no going back. I paused, considering the weight of what I was about to do. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about protecting Ruby, about stopping Ian from hurting anyone else. The risks were enormous, but the alternative, letting Ian continue his manipulation unchecked, was unthinkable. I looked at Wesley, seeing the unwavering support in his eyes. "I'm sure," I said, my voice steady. "It's time to fight back." With a deep breath, I hit send. The die was cast. Whatever came next, there was no turning back now. The aftermath of my email to the news outlets was immediate and overwhelming. My phone buzzed incessantly with calls from reporters, while social media exploded with discussions about Ian's true nature. I felt a mix of vindication and terror as I watched my private pain become public knowledge. Amidst the chaos, I received an unexpected message. It was from Sarah, Ian's new wife. "Can we meet? I need to talk to you." My heart raced as I showed Wesley the message. "What do you think?" I asked. He frowned. "It could be a trap. Ian might be using her to get to you." I nodded, considering the possibilities. But what if she's genuinely reaching out for help? I can't ignore that. After much debate, we agreed to meet Sarah at a busy cafe. As I waited nervously, I spotted her entering, looking pale and anxious. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. I think you might be right about Ian." Over the next hour, Sarah poured out her story. The controlling behavior, the subtle put-downs, the isolation from friends and family. It was like looking into a mirror of my past. "He's been acting strange since your email went out," she confided. Angry phone calls, shredding documents. "I'm scared, Quinn." I reached out and squeezed her hand. "You're not alone. We can help you." Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from Wesley. "Ian just showed up at Ruby's daycare. They wouldn't let him in, but he's making a scene. I'm on my way there now." Cold fear gripped my heart. I showed Sarah the message, watching her face pale further. "Oh God," she whispered. "This is my fault. He must have seen me leave to meet you." I stood up, my mind racing. "Sarah, listen to me. This isn't your fault. But right now we need to act fast. Are you with me?" She nodded, determination replacing fear in her eyes. As we rushed out of the cafe, I knew we were at a turning point. Ian had crossed a line by going after Ruby. It was time to end this once and for all. I dialed Charles's number. "I need your help," I said as soon as he answered. "It's time to take Ian down, and I mean completely." Charles's voice was grim. "I'm on it. What do you need?" Looking at Sarah, who nodded in agreement, I took a deep breath. "Everything. Every piece of dirt, every shady deal, every skeleton in his closet. We're going to make sure Ian never hurts anyone again." As I hung up, I felt a strange calm settle over me. The stakes had never been higher, but for the first time, I truly believed we could win this fight. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. Sarah filed for separation, sending Ian into a tailspin. I braced myself for the inevitable fallout, but nothing could have prepared me for what came next. My phone rang at 2 a.m. It was Ian, his voice slurred and menacing. "You think you've won, don't you?" he snarled. "You've ruined everything. I'll make you pay for this, Quinn. You and that brat of yours." I ended the call, my hands shaking. Within minutes, Wesley was on the phone with the police, while I called Charles. "We need to move now," Charles said grimly. "I've got enough evidence to bury Ian, but we need to act fast." As dawn broke, we put our plan into motion. Charles released a dossier of Ian's shady business dealings to the press. Simultaneously, Sarah went public with her story of abuse, corroborating my earlier claims. The response was immediate. Ian's political aspirations crumbled as sponsors and supporters distanced themselves. His architectural firm suspended him pending an investigation. But Ian wasn't going down without a fight. He showed up at our house, pounding on the door and shouting obscenities. Wesley stood firm, keeping him at bay while I comforted a terrified Ruby. "You can't hide forever." Ian screamed as the police arrived to escort him away. The next day, as we met with our lawyer to discuss a restraining order, I received a text from Ava. "Quinn, turn on the news. Now." My heart sank as I saw Ian on screen, looking disheveled but defiant. "These allegations are false," he declared. "This is a coordinated attack by my ex-wife and her wealthy new family. They're trying to destroy me because I know too much about their illegal business practices." I felt the room spin. Ian was playing his final card, threatening to drag us all down with him. "He's bluffing," Charles assured us, but I could see the worry in his eyes. As reporters began to dig into Charles's past dealings, I realized with horror that Ian's desperate gambit might actually work. He was willing to destroy everything and everyone around him. That night, as Wesley and I lay in bed, both too anxious to sleep, I made a decision. "I have to confront him," I said, "face to face. It's the only way to end this." Wesley's grip on my hand tightened. "It's too dangerous, Quinn. He's unstable." "I know," I whispered, "but I'm done letting him control our lives through fear. This ends now, one way or another." As I drifted into an uneasy sleep, I steeled myself for the confrontation to come. Tomorrow, I would face my demons and fight for the future my family deserved. The morning after my decision to confront Ian, I woke to a barrage of notifications on my phone. Ian had gone on a rampage, sending threatening emails to everyone in our circle. Friends, family, even Ruby's daycare. His desperation was palpable, and it terrified me. "We need to end this now," Wesley said, his face grim as he scrolled through the messages. I nodded, steeling myself for what was to come. "I'm ready." We arranged to meet Ian at a public park, with Charles and the police waiting nearby. As I approached the bench where Ian sat, I felt a mixture of fear and determination coursing through me. "Ian," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. He looked up, his eyes wild and bloodshot. "Come to gloat, Quinn. You've taken everything from me." "No, Ian. You did this to yourself." He lunged forward, grabbing my wrist. "I'll destroy you all," he hissed. "I've got nothing left to lose." I wrenched my arm free, heart pounding. "It's over, Ian. Let it go." "Never," he snarled, reaching into his jacket. Time seemed to slow as I saw the glint of metal. A gun. Ian had brought a gun.
"Ian, don't," I started, but he was already raising the weapon. Suddenly, Wesley was there, tackling Ian to the ground. The gun went off, the sound echoing through the park. I screamed, unable to see who had been hit. Police swarmed in, separating the two men. To my relief, Wesley stood up, shaken but unharmed. Ian was pinned to the ground, the gun kicked away. As the officers handcuffed Ian, he locked eyes with me. "This isn't over," he spat. "I'll never stop coming for you." I watched, trembling, as they led him away. It was finally over, but at what cost? The trauma of the moment hit me, and I collapsed into Wesley's arms, sobbing. "It's okay," he whispered, holding me tight. "We're safe now. He can't hurt us anymore." As we left the park, surrounded by concerned family and friends, I felt a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. The battle was won, but the war had left its scars. Looking at Wesley and thinking of Ruby, I knew we had a long road of healing ahead. But for the first time in years, I felt truly free from Ian's shadow. Whatever came next, we would face it together, stronger for having weathered this storm. 6 months after Ian's arrest, I stood in our backyard, watching Ruby chase butterflies while Wesley manned the grill. The scent of barbecue filled the air, mingling with the laughter of our family and friends gathered for our annual summer picnic. As I gazed at the scene before me, I marveled at how far we'd come. Ian's trial had been grueling, forcing me to relive every painful moment of our past. But with Wesley by my side and the unwavering support of our loved ones, I found the strength to testify. Ian's conviction brought a sense of closure I hadn't realized I needed. Marlene approached, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. "You did it, sweetheart," she said softly. "You've built a beautiful life." I smiled, thinking of the journey that had brought us here. The fear and uncertainty had given way to a deep-seated peace. Our family had emerged stronger, our bonds forged in the fire of adversity. Charles joined us, Ruby perched on his shoulders. "Who wants to hear a story?" he asked, his eyes twinkling. As Ruby cheered, I caught Wesley's gaze across the yard. His smile held a world of love and understanding. In that moment, I felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over me. Later, as the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over our gathering, I stood to address our friends and family. "A year ago," I began, my voice steady, "I couldn't have imagined this moment. The shadow of my past threatened to eclipse everything good in my life." I paused, looking at the faces of those who had stood by us. "But you all taught me the power of love, a family, both blood and chosen. You showed me that I'm stronger than I ever knew." Tears glistened in more than a few eyes as I continued. "Today, we celebrate not just summer, but resilience. We celebrate the family we've built and the love that sustains us." As applause rippled through the gathering, Wesley came to stand beside me, his arm around my waist. Ruby ran up, and I scooped her into my arms, feeling the warmth of my little family. In that perfect moment, I knew that whatever challenges life might bring, we would face them together. The scars of the past would always be a part of me, but they no longer defined me. Instead, they were a testament to the strength I'd found in myself and in the love that surrounded me. As night fell and stars began to twinkle overhead, I looked at my daughter's innocent face and felt a surge of hope for the future. Our story wasn't just one of overcoming adversity. It was a promise of the beautiful chapters yet to be written.